I'm going to give you a precursor to this next session. Ellen Gonick was nice enough to approach me a few months ago, 4 months ago, something like that. And she said, I have a really good idea. And she was like, because we had talked here about the social media team and the incredible talent that we have. And basically, she had said to me, she was like, listen, all that sounds good. I hear about these social media audits. She was like, I sell a ton of real estate, but I don't do a great job on social. She was like, I could use one of those audits, and I think that there's a lot of people in this room that would feel the same way that I do. So what if you guys dissect me on stage? And I was like, I love that idea. So that's where this came from. Present, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's where this came from, and I got to be honest with you. As soon as I brought this idea to our social media team and Anne, it was like done. Absolutely, I'm in. Let's make it happen. So without further ado.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm super excited to talk to you guys today. Okay, you guys, I'm so excited to be here today to give you a couple new ideas about how to approach social media, because as a social media specialist, I get asked all the time, how do I get started? What do I do? What's the best time to post? So I started thinking about this in kind of a new way for you all. So we're going to talk about social media as a performance because, believe it or not, I was a theater major in college and I am a trained actress. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to apply some of my acting training today to social media. And I think it will give you some really good ideas on how you can show up online. Okay, so first things first, do any of you recognize these people? Anybody? Do we have any other trained actors in the group by chance? Anyone else go to acting school? If so, we can talk about our trauma afterwards. No? Okay. Well, we'll start with the person in the middle. So this is me. I'm Ann Singer. I'm your social media specialist for the entire Northeast region. I'm bilingual. I speak Spanish. I lived in Spain for 7 years. I'm a pop culture aficionado. I now live in New York City. I'm a marketing agency survivor. I worked in a marketing agency for a few years. When you basically run it, you end up hating it. And I'm an ex-theater major. So that is why I'm here today. If you'd like to follow me on ann.cb.social, this is the Instagram account I'm going to be talking about today, along with talking about Ellen's accounts. Okay, so I'm going to introduce someone else who's new to you today, and this is Lee Strasberg. Lee Strasberg is the inventor of the method, or what you guys may know as method acting. Does anybody know of an actor who is a method actor, who's like a well-known method actor? You can shout them out. Dustin Hoffman. Anybody else? Marlon Brando. That's a really good one. That's kind of like the most famous. Sean Penn. Yeah, really good. All of these are really good examples. I always think of Jared Leto because he's always doing like the most outlandish thing possible for his roles. But this is who we have to thank for that. This is who we have to thank for my personal acting school drama and trauma. But essentially the method, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, is the technique that actors draw from their own lived experiences. So if you're performing a scene where you have to be the happiest you've ever been in your entire life, you should draw from a moment where you feel like you were the happiest you've been in your entire life. Doesn't sound all that bad until you're an actor who has to perform a scene that's really, really traumatizing, and then you're meant to relive those moments over and over to have an authentic performance. So when you're 18 years old and fresh in theater school, not sure that that's the safest thing that we should be asking young actors to do, in my opinion. So obviously, some of the main criticisms of method acting, whether you're in acting school or whether you're a trained professional, is that it is emotionally intense. It's psychologically demanding. It's a little bit weird, okay? And more than that, it prioritizes the actor's emotions over the needs of the scene, which I don't love. And we're going to apply that to social media today. It also prioritizes emotion over structure, control, and repeatability, which, in my opinion, are a few things that, as an actor, you need to be trained to be able to do in order to create convincing roles over and over in a safe way. So really famously, like a couple days ago, Kristen Stewart, actually one of my favorite actresses, talked about this with the New York Times. So I'm going to play a quick clip, hopefully.
I truly believe, from a very insider's perspective, that if you have to do 50 push-ups before your close-up, or if you refuse to sort of say a word a certain way, or if you can't sit down in an interview and not kind of like repossess and belittle every question, especially if asked by a woman, to you, the movie star. I mean, like Brando, I'm not coming for him. Incredible performer. There's a kind of like really common act that happens before the acting happens sometimes on set. Not only does it waste time, it draws attention, it siphons, and look, I get it, sort of makes, if it makes everyone stand at attention and sort of, if you can protrude out of the vulnerability a little bit and you can sort of feel like, a gorilla pounding their chest before they cry on camera, it's a little less embarrassing to see, and also it makes it seem like it's a magic trick. It makes it seem like it's so impossible to do what you're doing that nobody else could do it.
So famously, Kristen Stewart, not a big fan of method acting. And then a couple days later, Ethan Hawke came out and said that he is still a fan. So there's a little bit of that going on in the press right now, which is fun. But she's not a fan. She feels that putting yourself out there is inherently vulnerable. You don't have to go through this whole method over and over where you need to let people know that you're being extremely authentic in order to get a really good performance out there, right? So she's not a believer. I'm not a believer. The whole reason really is that the method can hold you back. You get stuck in doing things a certain way over and over. You're committing to this so-called authenticity instead of growing outward as a performer. And I see a lot of you doing that online. So we're gonna talk about that. Luckily, I'm not the only one who feels this way. And there are people who are better teachers than me, better actresses than me, who have come up with a really good technique. So I'm a huge fan of Stella Adler. This is who we're gonna be talking about today. Stella Adler is also a very famous acting coach, very famous actress. She studied with Lee Strasberg for a few years and was like, no, this is not working for me. And she created her own technique. So more or less, her idea is that acting should not be based on how interesting or how traumatizing your own life has been. And that is why we call it acting, ladies and gentlemen. It is a performance. The main pillar of her technique is that the actor's imagination is more powerful than their lived experiences. All right, back to me. I'm pulling a Michael Panisi here where every other slide was him. So back to me for a minute here. It was a joke, it's just kidding. Oh, he wasn't even here to experience it. Michael just walked back in. I said I was pulling a Michael Panisi by bringing the slide back to me for a minute. We'll come back to me a few times here. But back to me and my experiences working at a marketing agency. So I worked at a marketing agency for a few years after college. I studied theater, decided that I hate it, thank you. And I ended up moving to Spain, as one does. Worked at a marketing agency for a few years. And what's funny is I always used to joke when we would get a new client who was just like posting their whole life on social media, that they were like going really method with it, right? Like they're really going method with the social media. But it got me thinking. It reminded me of how much I hated method acting back in college, right? It's kind of funny because when you hate one thing in your life, you kind of manage to like think of all these other bad experiences that you had. So I was having this bad experience at the marketing agency and I was like, gosh, why is this reminding me of theater school? And it's because everything was on fire, right? Everything was an emergency all the time in the marketing agency life. It was horrible. We were responding from emotion instead of strategizing, which is kind of ironic because marketing agencies love to tell you that they're master strategizers for your social media, but not when they have 100 clients and one person working on every account, which was me. So not great, but it reminded me of how much I hated the method. And don't get me wrong, when it comes to method acting, I think a lot of actors, a lot of people prioritize it as emotional truth. And I think that that could be true for some people. And I don't hate that. But when it gets in the way of the craft, this is when it starts blocking what's important here in both acting and in social media. So all of this is to say is that I developed, drumroll please, the Ann Singer method. Thank you. Wow, thank you so much. You've heard of the method, you've heard of the Adler technique, and today you're going to hear about the Ann Singer method of social media. So I do not treat social media as self-expression. And I know that this is going to come as a shock to some of you who listen to me talk all the time in CB workshops and in Mastermind, where I parrot back to you all the time to be your authentic self. Forget I ever said that. That's actually not what I believe at all. I'm backpedaling all of that immediately. You're not going to be your authentic self on social media. And I'll get into that. I treat social media as a performance with intention. Just like acting, the strongest results come from imagination, from structure, from clear objectives, not from emotional recall and not from emotional reaction. Okay, so we've got 3 pillars of the Ansinger method. And I'm one of those presenters who likes to have everything up on stage so I don't have to keep clicking this button. So if you want to take a picture, this is your moment, and then you can lock back in. Okay, so the first pillar is going to be social media is a stage. It's not a diary. And up here in pink, I have actual pillars of the Adler technique that we're going to be applying to your social media accounts. And the first one is that the actor protects themselves. The work does not require emotional self-destruction. The actor does not be themselves on stage. They step into the circumstances and they play the role truthfully. Okay, so how does that apply on social media? How does that apply in the digital world? 1, social media is not your real life. And this may seem obvious to you because you're told that from the very first day that you make an Instagram account, from the very first day that you make a Facebook account. You're told everything you see on here is not people's real life. But then when you ask yourself, well, what am I supposed to be posting? People tell you to be authentic. Well, why should I be authentic if everyone on here is just posting their best moments, right? Why do I have to be the one who's authentic? I thought all of this was fake. You know what I mean? So don't forget, social media is not your real life. It is a designed performance with purpose, okay? The question that you should ask yourself when you're posting online is not, what happened to me today? What can I put out there? You know, here's a picture of my dog, right? It is, who am I here? And what do I do for the audience? I'm gonna give you guys a really good example of this, of 2 exact Instagram accounts where one is performing and one is not. Also, I think that this goes without being said, but you don't owe the internet access to your private life, right? You don't owe the internet access to your marriage, your children, your home, your private moments. You know what I mean? You don't have to do that to be successful online. And I think that a lot of people kind of get off track and feel like, okay, I have to show who I am, so I have to show every single moment of my life that belongs in a photo album. My personal opinion is that belongs in a photo album. You can keep it to yourself. And this kind of separation is not inauthentic, especially when you're showing up online as a professional. It's just being professional, right? You don't have to have every single picture of your whole life in your office, so you don't have to have that online either. And last but not least, your authority online should exist to serve an audience, not process your life. You can process your life in safer places, like acting training with a teacher that you trust, or therapy for some of us who went to acting school. That was kind of a joke. Okay, pillar number 2 is that imagination beats experience. Imagination beats experience every single time. Stella Adler famously said that research plus imagination plus intention create truth. And when when the technique is asking her students to create a character, she has them ask 4 questions of themselves. Those 4 questions are, who am I? Where am I? What do I want? And what's at stake? And that seems pretty easy, right? But we're gonna apply those to all of your social media accounts today. A couple other aspects of this is that you don't need to show your entire life to be believable online. You can just choose the parts of you that you want to share. It's kind of like me showing up here right now today. I'm not talking about my private life, I'm talking about my professional life. Think about translating that online. So yeah, like I said, imagine the professional version of you at your highest level. Show up, behave as that person consistently. The other thing that goes with imagination beating experience every time is that you don't need to wait to feel confident or feel in the mood to post. I get told a lot of times by agents like, but I don't feel like posting today. Okay, so you don't feel like it's your moment to share a part of your private life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't share a piece of advice, that you can't schedule things in advance. You don't need to wait to feel inspired, but instead what we're gonna do is choose an action, and everything that you share online should reinforce this action. So I chose a couple for you guys today that I thought were super relevant to realtors, and those are teach, clarify, reframe, lead, challenge, and reassure. So think about which one of those applies the most to you guys individually. And of course, authority is going to come from the consistency of action, not personality dumps. Now don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of a photo dump on social media. I've been known to do it, but there's a time and place, okay? There's a time and place. All right. And the last thing is that consistency creates character. Stella Adler famously said, character is built through repeated choices. I think that's pretty good life advice too. But your authority online is going to be built through repeatable themes, okay? A lot of times you'll hear us talk about content pillars, and I think that those are really good things that you can create and come back to when it comes to creating content over and over and over. You want to pick a few themes where people realize like, oh, okay, this is what Anne is an expert on. Also, predictable points of view. Okay, so this, for example, would be when you come to my account, it's pretty predictable that I'm gonna be the first one sharing news about an Instagram update, right? And you wanna know already before you see my content, before you watch my reel, what my opinion on that is likely going to be, because I've posted so often about my opinion that I'm just reinforcing my authority over time. Also, clear areas of expertise. And when I say clear areas of expertise, I mean stay in your lane and do not get out of your lane, okay? So I post quite a lot about social media online. If I suddenly started telling you guys that I'm also an expert chef and posting my recipes, you'd be like, Anne, what are you talking about? Since when are you a really good cook? If you've been keeping this from us, what else are you keeping from us, right? It undermines your authority to just randomly share some other information without building up that authority. And also visual and verbal consistency. So this is going to be what your accounts look like. This is going to be having the same profile picture across your accounts on a very basic level, but on a much higher level, that's going to be repeatable hooks in your videos, repeatable calls to action, something that keeps people coming back and keeps people recognizing you over and over and over. Your audience should be able to look at your content and say, this is what Anne thinks, this is what Anne believes, this is what Anne teaches. So, let's take a look at what method acting looks like on social media, which is what some of you guys are doing, and also, to be honest, what I'm doing on my personal account, versus what the Anne Singer method looks like. So method acting looks like I have to show my real life to be authentic. Okay, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to take every single part of my life and somehow translate it online and write out this big paragraph about what this all means to me from my heart, and that's going to get people to relate to me. Not necessarily. It's also reactive. So it's like, oh, I saw this TikTok trend. I have to do this TikTok trend now. If I don't do this TikTok trend right now with my listing, no one's gonna see my listing, right? That's not true. You don't need to be reactive. And it's also inconsistent. So a lot of times people will see a trend, oh my gosh, I have to do it right now. Let me get on this right now and I'm gonna post it, and then it doesn't get the views that you want, it doesn't get any likes, maybe you get a few comments here and there, and you start to feel really discouraged. You're not gonna post again for another week or two because you feel extremely discouraged about it. So all of this brings you to burnout, essentially, which, in my opinion, method acting will also bring you to burnout, right? Think about Lady Gaga in the House of Gucci. How good was she in that role, right? So good. She lived in that role for a whole year before they even started filming. Has she been in another movie since then? I don't think so. I mean, okay, maybe one, but I don't know. I haven't seen her in anything as major. But what the Anne Singer method is going to look like on social media is I play my role truthfully and consistently. It's strategic. That means, okay, I see a TikTok trend that I like. How can I apply this to something that's going to be authority building for me, right? Okay, it's a TikTok trend. These people are dancing. Maybe this song is really viral. But how can you take that and manipulate the trend so that it has to do with you? So that you're still maybe kind of participating in a trend here and there, but it's not undermining your authority that you're doing a TikTok dance now, or you're just showing this house with this music that doesn't make any sense. You need to always be manipulating it, right? Changing it so that it fits you, so that it fits the narrative that you're building online. And also, this method is a lot more sustainable. It sets you up to be posting evergreen content for information that people can keep coming back to you consistently so that they know that you're going to be a place where they can come to get really, really good, reliable information. And again, like I said, this is authority building, so this is something that will compound over time. So let's roast me before we get to Ellen, okay? This is my Instagram. This is my personal Instagram. It's nothing to write home about. That's my dog. That's my husband and I. And these are some photos that I post to make sure that my ex-high school classmates know that I'm doing really, really well in life, okay? That's what this exists to do. Okay, if you know, you know. Okay, you get it. You guys get it. We all get on Facebook and Instagram and see what people are doing. Okay, especially around the holidays. This is when I really do the photo dumps, you guys. If I run into you at Publix in Charleston, you need to know what I'm up to, right? But there's no bio here. There's no introduction. When you come to my Instagram, you either know who this person is or you don't, right? I'm not performing here. I'm not trying to be understood. This Instagram account doesn't really serve an audience or an objective. But if I told you that I was a social media expert and that I'm really good at helping agents with their social media and their digital marketing strategy and their lead funnels, and you looked me up and this is what you came across, you would be like, I don't believe this girl. She's lying because she only has 1,000 followers and she posts mostly pictures of her dog, and that's kind of weird. But this is me off stage, okay? This is not a role. And Stella Adler would say that because it's not a role, this does not require clarity or context, okay? So for those of you keeping up, that is from Sonnet 18 from Shakespeare, okay? I had to throw a little theater in there. And also, for those of you who are eagle-eyed, my husband and I did dress up as Christine in Phantom of the Opera for Halloween, so the theater kid in me really lives on, and we won the costume contest. So let's take a look at a good example. This is the Instagram that most of you know me by, right? This is my Caldwell Banker, digital marketing expert, social media Instagram. We've got a name on here, and CB Social, you know exactly who I am. I've got digital marketing expert up there so that when you search for digital marketing expert, I'm hopefully one of the top results. And then my bio is SEO optimized. What we also have here is that it's super visually consistent, right? There's a lot of different blue colors in here. When you look at my captions, when you look at the way that I speak on my Instagram reels, it's extremely consistent, right? I'm showing off a little bit of my personality, but then I'm diving right into the hard-hitting stuff. The hard-hitting, this is what's important on social media right now. This is the biggest news. This is what the CEO of Instagram just said. This is the newest stuff that we have for Caldwell Banker. So I'm really consistent with the things that I'm talking about. My private life is not the material. I don't think you guys even know I have a dog if you come to this Instagram. You wouldn't even know how important she is to me. But this account is built really intentionally from the outside in. When I created this account like 7, 8 months ago, I started thinking like, okay, who's my audience, right? Hopefully Caldwell Banker agents, but they don't know me yet. So I need to start posting things that's going to attract this audience in, that's going to tell you exactly who I am, what I do, and ideally build that audience from the ground up. So let's take a look at applying my own methodology here. So we got to ask ourselves 4 questions here when we're creating an Instagram account, when we're creating a persona or a narrative online. So remember, imagination beats experience. The first question was, who am I on this account? I'm a marketing authority in the real estate industry. I'm a social media expert. I'm the first one to post trends. I'm the first one to share new information. And I lead by example. I'm going to show you guys exactly how to create really high-performing Instagram reels on here, right? Where am I? I'm in Caldwell Banker land. I don't know about you guys, but I exist in this metaphysical space that we've created that I like to refer to as Caldwell Banker land, where we know everything about marketing, we know everything about the best offerings that CB has for marketing, and we are the #1 go-to experts. You shouldn't be asking anyone else about marketing. You should just come to us. But this is a public professional stage, right? This is a highly competitive, algorithm-driven environment because at the end of the day, we're still online. What do I want? Okay, this is where you have to get really honest with yourself and ask yourself, what do you want out of this account, right? When you're creating a character, this is your driving force, right? When you think about Marlon Brando in some of his greatest roles, you can tell in every single line he says exactly what his character wants in every single moment. That's what we should feel from your persona online. So what do I want? I want to establish my expertise. I want to influence your behavior. I want all of you downloading things like our marketing catalog, and I want all of you liking my posts about Labubu on a laptop, right? And I also want to shape how people think in general about social media strategy. I also, on a lesser level, want my audience to learn, to save my content, to apply all of my thinking, and also to reference my content, right? I want you guys to be learning from me and telling other people that you're learning from me. And on a higher level, to be so honest, I want professional leverage. I want trust, I want leadership opportunities, I want impact at scale, right? So think about the things that you want on a low level, on a medium level, and also on a really high level. So what's at stake here? Okay, the stakes are also usually pretty high for a character, especially when Brando's playing a character. The stakes are always really high for Brando, right? What's at stake for me? This is also a pretty high stake. My credibility, my professional reputation. If I'm on here posting as Ann CB Social, the social media strategist for Caldwell Banker, my reputation is on the line here, people. My ability to lead rooms, to lead workshops, strategy conversations, If my account is unfocused or oversharing or inconsistent, it undermines my role, right? And I'm gonna be honest, the Labubu content is beginning to get a little bit on the edge here, okay? If you guys have been following with Labubu on a laptop, I'm like, all right, I gotta pull back from this a little bit, but it's the holidays, we're having fun. But if I'm clear and I'm disciplined and I'm intentional, then my authority is going to continue to compound over time, which we can see because I already have 1,400 followers and I don't really know any of them, whereas the others on my other account are all of my friends from high school. It's Ellen's turn. We are now going to apply the same exact framework to Ellen Gonick's Instagram account. So let's give Ellen a round of applause. Thank you so much for being our guinea pig today. Due to copyright, Canva won't let me play Rose's Turn from the hit Tony Award-winning musical Gypsy. But if you know it, feel free to sing that along in your head for a second for maximum impact of this slide. I will not be singing along. I can't hold a candle to Audra McDonald. Okay, so let's create a character for Ellen. So I talked to Ellen last Friday on the phone for the first time, and I got to know her a little bit. So just from a quick 20-minute phone conversation, we're gonna create a new narrative, a new online persona for Ellen that she can use. And I have a lot to send you after this presentation that you get to keep. So here's what I know about Ellen. She lives in Livingston, New Jersey. I know where that is now. Her client base is largely referral driven. So she's got a lot of friends in the community. She's got personal connections who keep sending clients back to her. And that is super, super amazing. So she's basically built this whole community within her community that keeps giving back. She's also super active in community sports. So pickleball, volleyball, and she's a lifelong soccer player. She self-identified on the phone to me as Livingston's biggest cheerleader. And I was like, write that down. Someone write that down. That's going in the Instagram bio. That's really, really good. And she's also lived the commuter lifestyle. So I've learned from our quick phone call that some of the towns in New Jersey are considered like commuter towns where people are popping back and forth to New York City all the time. So Ellen has lived that lifestyle. She personally understands the New York City commute. She's also an individual agent, and she has an offline brand presence that's like super robust. Ellen has a billboard. You will see Ellen on the back of your bus ads. She's got transit ads. She's got a ton going on. Her assistant sent over to me all of these like different mailers that she sends out, and I'm telling you, she's doing all the right things offline, that's for sure. Her assistant also currently posts on her behalf, which is not a bad thing. You guys are super busy. A lot of people can be helping you out with your social media. I don't have a problem with that at all. And she has a professional background as an economist, okay? This had my ears perking up on the phone because this came in about minute 18 of our 20-minute phone conversation, and I was like, wait, what? You have a professional background as an economist? This is major. We're gonna use this in every single post that you put out there, okay? Not really, but you'll see what I mean. So let's go ahead and apply the framework. First question, who is Ellen on this account, right? Who's Ellen going to be? Ellen's going to be your trusted local Livingston authority. She is the go-to person, okay? She knows the town, she knows the numbers, she knows how much your house is worth, she knows how much your house is worth, she knows how much you could sell it for. She knows the best sports teams. If you want to play community pickleball, she knows the court to go to, okay? She knows the local deli. She knows where you should be picking up your ham or whatever you guys eat here. Don't really know. I'm from Charleston. And the shortest way to get to New York City. Do not trust Google Maps. Don't download City Mapper. You need to talk to Ellen, okay? Ellen's done this commute. She knows it like the back of her hand. Her role is going to be, I live here, I understand this market, and I will tell you the truth. Where is Ellen? Ellen's in Livingston, New Jersey. It doesn't matter if she's on her Facebook page posting about a trip to Turks and Caicos. Ellen is in Livingston, New Jersey when you go to her Instagram account. She's always in Livingston, New Jersey, okay? She's in Livingston serving discerning, educated buyers and sellers, okay? This is not going to be low level, okay, first time home buyers, I'm back again kind of stuff. And if that's your niche, that's no problem. That's just not Ellen's niche. Ellen's social media is going to be here for not virality, but for validation. Okay, like I said, she's already doing all the right things offline, but her audience is going to expect competence from her, not trend chasing, okay? She used to be an economist, she's lived here forever, she's highly involved in the community. These are people who want her to come online and tell the truth and speak plainly. What does Ellen want? Ellen wants to reinforce trust at scale. She wants people to come across other videos posted by people that we don't even know and they're gonna say, I wonder what Ellen thinks about this. I wonder what Ellen's opinion is on this part of the market, right? Or when they come across Ellen's videos, we want them to think, of course Ellen knows about this. Like, she is the one to go to about this, right? Before you know where the best Christmas markets are, Ellen is already sharing that on social media. I don't know if you guys do Christmas markets here. She wants her online presence to finally match her offline authority. So more and more, of course, like, you're gonna see Ellen in real life in Livingston, New Jersey, but people are gonna search for her online, and they want to see that her online presence matches exactly everything that she's putting out there and how successful she is. And now the big question, what's at stake? Her ability to expand beyond Livingston without losing that local authority, right? So when we were on the phone, Ellen made it super clear to me that even though she's local to Livingston, she doesn't want to be too niche down. She doesn't want to not be able to sell next door in Millburn or Short Hills, as the train station is called. She wants to be able to spread out from a couple of these different areas and still branch out within the community, right? And outside of the community. So she doesn't want to lose that local authority. And the main point here is that if her social media is generic, or it looks like it's being posted by someone else, or it's shallow, it weakens her strongest asset that she spent so many years building, which is trust. And for Ellen, we're actually going to apply the full framework. We didn't do this to me because, have to keep your attention. But we're going to choose an action for Ellen. And I think that the best one for her out of all of these is going to be lead, right? She's already self-identified herself as Livingston's biggest cheerleader. That tells me that not only is she a leader in her community, but she's rooting for you guys. She's rooting for the community, right? She wants you to be a part of it, to join in, and to love it. So a couple repeatable themes that we could see Ellen, maybe hopping on an Instagram reel and talking about could be the truth about the commute, right? We want to hear what's Ellen's take on that. What's the fastest way? How do we get there? What if I drive a car? What if I have to take the train? What if I have to do this? What if I'm running late, right? All of those questions, Ellen can answer them. Another repeatable theme would be an economist's take on the market. I would love to see Ellen taking these big national ideas about real estate and applying them to her own backyard and seeing exactly how that can benefit her local community. And then, of course, community in motion. So like I said earlier, if you want to play pickleball, Ellen is the one who is going to tell you where to go. She knows the local leagues you can join. She knows the local volleyball teams you can join. She knows whose last year champion was. It was her, spoiler alert, that sort of thing. So we want to be able to come back over and over for these themes for Ellen's profile. And also, the predictable point of views. So this is, Ellen would say that. That does remind me of Ellen, right? So that local experience is going to beat those national headlines every time. I've already touched on this a little bit. Another thing I learned about Livingston, New Jersey, you guys, this is crazy as someone living in New York, is that you guys have the Ivy League of public schools here. I didn't know that. That's super cool. But this is something that is shaping your housing market, right? People are not only wanting to live in Livingston for how awesome the community is, but also thinking about their future, thinking about their kids' futures. So Ellen is going to talk a little bit about the schools that shape not just the education, but the value of the housing market. And then also she's going to talk about Livingston itself as a living, breathing community, because Livingston works because people participate. They don't just live here. They participate in the community just like Ellen does. They live it, they breathe it, they love it. Ellen also is going to have some clear areas of expertise. So remember what I said earlier. We're going to stay in our lane on some things, and then there's going to be some things that we don't necessarily need to hear about, right? So her lanes of expertise are going to be Livingston, the Millburn Short Hills market behavior area, how these big national headlines apply to her own backyard. All of that we definitely want to hear from Ellen. New York City commuter reality, right? We already talked about a few of these things. Interpreting economic noise for those local real estate decisions. So all of this really, again, works to build the authority that Ellen already has by talking about her past as an economist, her experiences living here, her being an active part of the community. But what she does not need to share is things that you can get from anyone else. This is generic real estate tips, or national trend panic posts, or even personal life updates. And I don't mean to say that Ellen can't be we won the pickleball championship and I'm posting about it on my professional Instagram account because you're all gonna see it. I think that's great because that ties her back to the community over and over and over. I'm talking about, we don't need to know if her cousin's little sister's dog had puppies. You know what I mean? Like, there's some updates that I see on social media these days, and I'm like, we really don't need to know that, you guys. And also, visual and verbal consistency. So we're gonna take a closer look here. This is Ellen's Instagram right now. And it's not bad, okay? It's really not bad, especially because when you look at it from a first glance, it looks like she's got everything going right, okay? So right now, though, Ellen is method acting on Instagram. What she's doing most of the time is broadcasting activity, she's documenting, and she's reacting. So for example, it's like, oh, I have an open house, so I should probably share that. I have a new listing, so I should probably get that out there right now. And that's, that's fine. Like, we could probably add a little bit more strategy to it, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. But she's got a couple things going on here. She's got in her Instagram bio, what we can mostly see is her awards. So we've got #1 agent in New Jersey, Caldwell Banker, top 0.5%, half of 1% of all Caldwell Banker agents worldwide. Top 100 most influential agents in New Jersey. So her entire Instagram bio is essentially her awards. Don't get me wrong, awards are amazing. You guys are very highly awarded in this company too, which is awesome. She's also got in her posts, we have quite a lot of open houses. We've got her just solds. It's kind of hard to see, but her just solds, her under contracts, her just listeds, all of that stuff. And then she's got a couple of highlight bubbles here. And these are mixed, like really 50-50 between real life and professional life. So it's hard to read, but it says recognition, news, interview, and my life. Okay, so they're really spread out. So awards tell people that Ellen is successful, listings tell people that she's busy, but nothing here is really telling me who she is as a guide in my home buying process, in my home selling process. Maybe I'm moving to Livingston, maybe I'm moving out of Livingston. I don't know how Ellen is going to be the right person to guide me through this journey, right? So right now, it looks like a lot of her offline marketing is being mirrored to social media instead of being translated. So for example, if she's got like a mailer she's sending out, it looks like we're just kind of taking that, reworking it a little bit, making it an Instagram post. So what we want is that Ellen's Instagram answers the question, why Ellen? Instead of just being another billboard of Ellen, right? Stella Adler would say, role before resume. So we're gonna make some changes here. Okay, this is what Ellen's Instagram could be. I used my magic touch on it. This profile is succeeding because it doesn't ask you guys to like Ellen's life or her offline marketing. It's going to ask you to trust her thinking. So let's break it down. First things first, I changed her name up at the top. I put Ellen Gonick, top New Jersey realtor. The reason for this change, instead of it just being Livingston, is because one, Ellen told me that she wants to branch out of Livingston. She wants to be able to have a lot of work in areas surrounding, and also because of searchability. People are more than likely going to get on Instagram, get on Google, get on wherever they search, and type in top New Jersey realtors near me. So we changed her name to that. Then I did include Livingston and Short Hills, which is apparently, it's Milburn, I know this, but the train station is Short Hills. So colloquially, we're calling it Short Hills. 2 train stations. Okay, 2 train stations. We put Short Hills. We can also add Milburn to this if we wanted to. But Livingston and Short Hills, because those are also going to be eventually, when people are looking really niche for niche search results, they will eventually type in those probably. And then we're gonna put on here, economist turned real estate guide. So you know exactly what her background is and exactly why to trust her right away. Let's talk schools, strategy, and long-term value. And then, because she said it and I thought it was so genius, Livingston's biggest cheerleader. I think that is such a great title for Ellen. I made a couple other changes here. So these are her highlight bubbles, right? These little guys right here. I changed them to be start here, community, market, and results. Start here is going to be everything that you need to know when you want to first start working with Ellen. So every time Ellen posts an Instagram story that has to do with that, we're going to add it to that highlight bubble. Community can be upcoming events. She can add a link. It can be past events, anything like that. She can add it to the community highlight bubble. Market is going to be her opinion on big national news turned how's that affecting your backyard. And then I really want to talk about results as a highlight bubble, because remember, we used to have a lot of awards in Ellen's bio. And as you can see, those have disappeared. The reason for that is mostly because these aren't major search terms. People aren't necessarily going to be typing in things like top 0.5% of agents in New Jersey. So instead, what I would like to see Ellen doing is sharing results, client testimonials, client appreciation, her top sales in the past year, that sort of thing. And then, of course, put those awards in there too. The language is going to be a lot more explanatory rather than hype-driven. And I want Ellen to ask, does this reinforce me as a guide, or does it just document activity every time she posts? So the shift is really taking her account from activity to authority. Okay, let's take a closer look really quickly at what I did for Ellen. You get to keep these. You're going to take these templates home with you today. So the first one is going to be a pinned post from economist to top New Jersey realtor, where Ellen can share a little bit of her background, pin that to her profile, so anybody who finds her account is going to know exactly who she is, exactly what her opinions are going to be, exactly what her hot takes are going to be. And then I also dressed up a little bit some listing posts. So when you do have a new listing and you want to share those really good high quality photos that you're getting from Listing Concierge, you can always have those on your Instagram account. So I did 2 different options for that, just so that we keep that fresh every single time. Then a market update style kind of post. So this would be paired with a caption that is really a deep dive into Ellen's opinion. What I'm seeing more and more popular on Instagram is that you have a photo or you have a single image and then you have a lot of information in the caption. And the reason for that is because of search engine optimization. I've talked about this a little bit in workshops recently, but a couple months ago, Instagram made this huge change where essentially everything that you share on Instagram can now be ranked by Google. So that means that your Instagram account is now competing against websites with years and years of blogs, right? So the change and the shift that people are making online is that they're sharing quite a lot more information in the caption. And then the last 2 things are going to be a couple different ways that Ellen can really gain authority in the area. So commuters, how to get from Short Hills to New York City in under 20 minutes from a local who spent years doing it. I don't know if that's possible. Okay, I don't think that's possible. But maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Either way, how to get from Short Hills to New York City in under an hour? Under an hour? Under an hour and 10? Ellen knows. Ask Ellen after this, okay? And then the last is going to be ranked top schools near Livingston, New Jersey. So the full breakdown is in caption here. So she's going to share why these are the top schools, what the rankings are, cite exactly the sources that she got them from, right? And then over here, there's also some social media story highlight covers. I didn't make these. You can go to Pinterest right now and type in social media highlight bubbles, and a ton of them are going to come up. And it's easy to make them, but it's even easier to just search on Pinterest. And then I also made Ellen the tiniest brand kit ever so that she can keep coming back to this. So I added this like nice off-white color and this tan color, and then a heading, a subtitle, and copy font, and a signature and an accent font for Ellen. So just going back here for a second, this was her before. And don't get me wrong, as for mailers, this is not bad. But there's a lot of, for translating this online, there's a lot of competing for attention going on here, right? There's a lot of different colors, there's a lot of different fonts. For example, I would love to see this exact pie chart translated into her new colors, her new fonts, so that it all really blends together and is really consistent. But right now, I don't really know what to focus on first because there's just so much going on that's competing for attention. Oh, and then we'll take a look at this one more time. Ta-da! All right, so last thing, my final takeaways. If you walk away with nothing else today, other than you can see why I'm not an actress, or you learned something new about method acting, or whatever it is, please remember that social media works best when it's treated like a stage, not a diary. I also want you to remember that authority comes from sharing a clear role online, not necessarily your private life. And just think back to, for example, my Caldwell Banker Instagram versus my personal one. Imagination and intention are going to outperform reaction and emotion every single time. So just because someone else has had a really successful post lately doesn't mean that you have to go and make the exact same one right away. Stop and think about it, really strategize, really decide how you want to show up online, what the narrative is that you're telling, who the person that you are is, and then make that decision. And when your content shows how you think, not just what you do, your authority is going to compound over time. And honestly, it's going to be so much easier for you to create content when you're playing a role and not forcing yourself to be yourself authentically, whatever that means, all the time. Thank you so much.